Yep.
Okay.
Council, thanks very much for attending the first budget meeting, and thank you to those listening in the gallery, and particularly staff. This is Kristen's favorite time of the year. Before I begin, I want to thank both staff and administration, and particularly Kristen, for presenting this to us today. This was 18 to 20% when it was first initiated through discussion, and they have managed to work that down to instead of 2 digits, a very low 1-digit number and a fraction. So that doesn't come without a lot of scrutiny, a lot of examination, and we're very pleased with that. It does make our job somewhat easier in having a competitive tax rate and moving our municipality ahead. And I think that should be our objective here. We want to be competitive, yet at the same time, we do not want to go backwards. So we'll call the meeting to order at 9 o'clock. And before we begin, we'll give a brief land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is a traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. Members of the public have been advised that they can attend this meeting personally at 153 McKellar Street, and this meeting will be recorded and may be on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube or Facebook page. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? The chair doesn't witness any. Delegations and presentations? There are none. And budget presentation, our treasurer, Kristen McGill, we'll let you take the floor and lead us through this, Kristen.
Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. So the first slide, this presentation is set up very similar to last year. I think we had a lot of success with the way that information was presented. So I kept a similar strategy to last year. So right now we're set to collect, as it stands, $7.1 million in taxes. And you can see the breakdown between approximately 70% residential, 23% farm, commercial, and then the remainder of the classes. Visual representation in a pie chart here. The same ward structure that we have had since, well, forever. So the taxes collected by ward, the population I am not really able to update because they track it by the municipality as a whole now and not by the old ward structure. So we know that the population has definitely changed percentage-wise, at least in distribution since then. But right now it's showing that we pull in 43% of our taxes from the old Eckford ward, 1.85 from Glencoe, and 2.235 from Mosa. Obviously we don't have the 2024 tax rates for surrounding municipalities. So right now, in comparing the 2022 tax rates, or 2023 tax rates, I'm sorry, we are still ranked here. If you read this rank here is 6 out of 16 is where we stand just on the total rate. 8 out of 16 is if you account for the average home value, and 6 out of 16 if we look at the average income per household. So the tax burden as a percent of income per household. So our level didn't change, our ranking didn't change, sorry, from 2022 to 2023. So when we look at the property tax comparison, just reiterates what I just said. But these figures don't consider service levels, which make up the tax rate. So if we were to look, you can see the much larger municipalities have a lower tax rate, but typically a higher home value. But the lower tax rate comes because there's much more population to distribute the same or similar costs over. And you'll see like the smaller the municipalities get, the higher the tax rate gets. But also, if we look at, say, Adelaide Metcalfe, they don't have a pool, they don't have an arena. So to compare directly to them isn't an apples to apples comparison either. And we can't see what they have, what they're saving for future replacements of their asset management plan and stuff like that. So the largest drivers that make up about 72% of the funds collected are gravel, brine, and road maintenance at 1.5 million, facilities and recreation at 1.3 million almost, police 880,000, fire just shy of $1 million, and waste management 442,000. So as you can see, 72% of the budget is already kind of laid out. So we have a small percentage left to try and keep us within a competitive range. So our taxes are supporting, this is kind of just a further breakdown here. You can see 42% to public works, 16 facilities and recreation, fire and protection, police, administration. I took the Wardsville sewer component out for this stage because we're going to bring the utility budget back next month because we do need to reset rates for them. So this is not including any Wardsville sewer component. So the framework that kind of management goes through to develop the budget is we look at all base costs required to maintain existing levels of service. So salaries, equipment, inflation, we start with that. We add in any mandatory or legislative services, any additional costs of the prior year commitments. So any debentures that we committed to last year, we add in. And then from there, anything growth or enhancement related. But as you can see, the first three steps take up the majority of the budget.
Yes, go ahead, Martin.
Be able to ask questions while we're going?
I think Chris's objective here for the first part of the meeting is to give an introduction to what, and we'll get into the numbers and the classifications, but we haven't discussed any budget line in subject focusing on one particular entity. I'd like her to just tell us when she's completed her introduction, and we'll start with the technicalities of the budget. If you'd be patient enough to wait. Thank you.
Sure. Maybe I should have said this at the beginning. My plan was to go through, there's some introductory slides, kind of an overview of where we're at. And then I was going to go break down department by department, look at the operating, and then look at the capital so that council can vote on those as we move forward, ideally. And then my guess is that your question's about Wardsville sewers.
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I can take you through, I'll take you through the beginning, and then we can get into the questions and the voting. Last year, as we went through this, it looked like it just kept the momentum moving forward if we can apportion it by department and kind of vote on it that way, if that's all right. Okay. So items of interest, cost of living September over September was 3.6% for Ontario. So remember, that means in most cases, the cost of goods and services will increase at least 3.6% over the prior year. MPAC still isn't reassessing existing properties. So from 2024, we're seeing actually almost 33,000 less from funds from assessment. So obviously we're not seeing less homes, but what that means is that some properties have moved from residential, which is a full tax rate, to farm, which is 25%. So that's where we're seeing less funds from the same amount of properties, basically. Changes in legislation and regulatory services. So really, you'll see when we get to the salaries section, there's really much less of a benefit of having temporary staff anymore because of our obligation to offer homers to all part-time staff. So at one point that was a bit of a cost savings. It's much less so now. OMPF went up 40,000 and almost 41,000, sorry. And then to formulate the rest of the budget, we looked at all of like the fire master plan, facilities and recreation plans, and existing asset management plan to develop the rest of this budget. And obviously staff look to access any grant funding where we can to help alleviate the tax pressures. So right now, as I said, the assessment growth, is down 33,000. Revenue is up 40,000. You'll see later that's the majority of that's coming from the recycling program in place that the province has. That'll take us to 2025, and then that'll kind of go away. And expenses are up about 800,000. So overall, we need about 3.88% total tax rate increase. That's assuming right now a zero change in the county and school board levies, which translates to a 6.3 municipal tax rate increase. So that would be, as it stands right now, about $110 per residential home. And I say valued at 186, knowing that that's not reflective of what the market says right now, but that is reflective of what MPAC has right now. So that's what MPAC has our average residential home based on. So that's what they are taxed on. And that's about $9.20 a month. So for 2024, a 1% tax rate is equivalent to about $108,322. So to increase taxes, we'll add 108,000 in taxes. To decrease taxes, we have to find savings of 108,000 per 1%. Yeah. Okay, so overall, this is where we stand. You can see up here, here's the my mouse is a little bit jumpy, sorry. The 7.104 or 7,104,000 that we saw from the previous slide, but you can kind of see the breakdown in how government has gone. This is just the outline of the budget, 21, 22, 23, 24, and then the variance on the side. So general government's actually gone down 23,000. Planning has gone up 30,000. Public works up 291,000, and so on. So to break down the increase, to make this a little bit more understandable, the 412,000 in increase in revenue comes from the recycling grant, increase in revenue billed to utilities, and OMPF. So the way the utilities work is that we try and make them self-sustaining. So the rates pay for the service. Our utilities clerk, her salary is budgeted for and paid out of the municipal tax levy. So we then bill the utilities for her portion of administration, her salary, a portion of the public works guys that are working for roads and sewers. So that's where that revenue comes in. So the changes in salaries, the deputy clerk position, net of changes, slight increase in hours for the arena attendant, fire chief part-time to full-time, and a seasonal public works staff to a full-time. So the inflationary impacts are really where we don't have a lot of wiggle room for, we can't pull this back. It kind of is what it is. Cost of living wage adjustment, that's already been predetermined. Fire COLA and filling of rosters, that's fairly predetermined. Road maintenance, sidewalk snow removal, and vehicle and fuel repairs. So short of decreasing levels in service, those items will stay where they are. The controllable, or previously committed are the additional crossing guard, Four Counties Transit, and then as I said, I removed Wardsville Sewer, so that's a savings over the prior year. We're going to take a deeper look at capital later, but this is showing the commitment of the capital from the prior year. So the paving debenture, the SCBA, and then other miscellaneous debenture variances, and then the proposed 2024 capital budget, which is broken down by department. Operating projects, we found some savings if we were to decrease the newsletter that we currently send out to 2 times annually mailed, but we could still put it together electronically. But the paper and mailing costs are fairly substantial. Contributions to reserves for fire and recreation for the Olympia, another fire truck, and commitments for the future. And then how we funded that was through reserves, assessment growth, and then the funds to be raised through taxes. And that shows you how we balance it all. So we've gone through most of this already, salaries and benefits. Overall for the budget, I wanted to make sure that we could see what the operating projects were, even though, because there would have been one last year and a similar valued one this year, it wouldn't really change the amount that we're raising in taxes. So keep in mind as we go through this too, that everything that says tax base will impact the tax rate. However, the things that are coming from reserves, if we choose to remove those, that won't impact the tax rate because it's being funded elsewhere. So cell phone booster for the office, I'm sure everybody who's taken a call or tried to take a call in here will know that it's a bit of a dead zone in here right now. Gas detection equipment for the fire department, Wardsville Cemetery fence coming from reserves, a diamond dragger, lawn roller, sunshade, shipping container for storage, hockey nets, wheelchair ramp, ECC flooring and parking lot light, street light on Dugald, traffic counters, trimmer and chainsaw, and solar speed radar signs. So Gary, it was only able to stay for half the meeting today, so I moved his ahead of the others, just so he could speak to any items in here. So the fire and protection section of the operating budget, you can see here, police is fairly consistent, fire up a bit, building and bylaw down a bit, and emergency management consistent. So really, most of the change here is coming from fire. And you can see from the previous couple of slides where that variance was coming from. So the filling of rosters, mostly salaries here. And in capital, I know that's little. Can everybody see that? All right. If I move it up, it makes it weirder. But heating system upgrades for Glencoe, we're still kind of troubleshooting what that could look like, but we know that some work needs to be done in there. It needs to be addressed. So as it currently stands, if it costs us 100,000, we've got 50,000 in reserves specifically earmarked for heating at that Glencoe station. So if we were to debenture the remaining 10,000 falls to the tax base this year. Rescue equipment, an airbag lift set, which is for the heavy rescue designation, and it's expiring, so we need to replace it. That's coming from reserves. And then pavement of the rear portion, I think from, Gary can correct me if I'm wrong, but from the rear entrance up to the fire hall, so it's not the entire thing, it's this.
Not the entire thing, yeah, it's as per, not the fire plant recommendations from the rear laneway forward to the rear doors.
And that's at about a cost of 75,000, 24 from reserves, debenturing the rest, really in line with the first phase of the paving. So that'll kind of keep them in line together. So that'll add about 10,000 to the tax base this year. So I was going to pause here and take any questions or hopefully vote to make some decisions on the fire operating capital budget components.
Okay, yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I guess I'm not in that good a mood today, but first of all, I heard a rumor on the weekend that there was something wrong with the heating system. And this is what I feel is part of the problem. We're the last ones to know what's going on. And so now I see there's $100,000 allotted. But things like this should be presented to us before the budget problems that are going on. So I just wondered if we could get a bit of elaboration of what's going on with the heating system. I'll tell you what I heard. I heard that.
Just point of order. We have to deal with not rumors. We have to deal with facts, and the information that is presented to us by administration are factual and not Facebook rumors. So you seem aggressive in your question and pointing fingers at the forthcomingness of staff here, Councillor Fink. Treasurer McGill. Okay. Oh, you want to handle it? Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, Council. So to answer Councillor Vink's question, actually the second day, Gary, I believe that I got here, I stood in the hall with you over there, and you conveyed the concerns over the heating system in the fire hall that apparently had come to council lots before that, over discussion over upgrades. There was some concern about the initial contractor. There were some concerns that maybe council didn't want the initial contractor back in to do that servicing. So I think council's been aware of this situation for quite some time. It was certainly made aware to me when I arrived. Now, in discussion with Gary had indicated to me, and so I'll address him as fire chief moving forward. So just with the chief, he indicated that he wanted to have a look at the system, kind of assess what was working, what wasn't working. And then when the manager of recreation and facilities, for that matter, came on board, he's been working with a handful of contractors to get an assessment of where that is at. So we could come back here and properly present it to council with what it would require to fix. As the manager of finance treasurer indicated, is we are still sorting this piece out. This is a worst case scenario that we'd be looking at here. We're hoping that we could do it for about half of this, which would not have the debenture factor coming into play here. But we thought we'd present council with a worst case scenario today because it has been ongoing, and I understand it has come to this horseshoe on several occasions up until this.
Yeah, just to complete what I was saying, before presentations are made, investigations precede presentation. That's extremely important. Is there a follow-up you'd like to make, Councillor Vink, out of courtesy to you?
Yes, I appreciate what CEO stated, but that's true. That was a few years ago that we talked about it, and we put in a suspended gas unit heater, and so
The radiant heating you're referring to, yep. Mhm.
right. So anyway, that's now it's been explained. So it wouldn't have hurt to explain that at a meeting. We've been having a problem or whatever.
I believe you may have.
Yeah, and I think it had been. I certainly know that this administration was still investigating to bring a proper form to council in this presentation. We still haven't assessed exactly what it is. You've got a system out there that maybe wasn't ideal upon installation or construction. So we'd like to give you the actual real answer than maybe the hearsay and or guessing. We'd rather come back with what's right. So I appreciate that. It's my aim to change your mood, Councilor Vink.
Okay.
As best I can.
And Kristen, continue on. Or Gary, if you have anything to add. Yes, yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Mayor Mayhew, this is for the fire chief. I just wonder if we could get just a little bit more where exactly it's going to go. I understand that to the north of the hall that will be paved.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, to answer your question. So it would be from the rear entrance laneway, all the way to, the rear doors or the rear apron and to the south side of the lot. So that would be all the way around and then all the way at the back to that rear entrance.
And it will be all the way to the back.
No.
Of the ground.
No, the gravelled area, we want to keep the gravelled area for Auto X and other activities. It doesn't need to be paved back there. This is a recommendation as per the master fire plan as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. One more question from Councillor Vink. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. And why, if that was the fire marshal plan, why wasn't it all done at one time?
I can't answer that, but we try to phase things over periods of time so that it has less impact on our tax base. Kristen, am I correct on that?
Yes, we had kind of budgeted an amount to pave the municipal parking lot, and we were able to, with the amount that we had budgeted, we were able to get the front of the fire hall done too. So this is just to finish that project, and we will marry up the debenture so that it's, you know, it's, the impact is the same each year.
Okay. Councillor McGill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'd like to hear a little more detail about the heating system, but I realize probably we don't know for sure exactly what will have to be done there. But I would like to also add, as far as heating systems go, they usually last about 20 years. And I think that fire hall is getting to be almost that old. I know lots of people who replace furnaces at about 20 years, and even people with geothermal have to do a lot of upgrading. That the wells that are there can be reused, of course, but the system itself ends up getting replaced after about 20 years. But so I don't know whether Chief Johnson wants to handle that maybe.
Yeah, I think that'll be fine. I just caution council and staff. We keep names out of this. I know there was some disappointment in further installations, but we're not going to mention names and of trades.
Yeah, so thank you, Worship. That's why I'm going to jump in here. So we have had 3 separate contractors come to the site. One has recommended an entirely different system for us, which would be in the form of boiler. It could tap into some of the existing lines within the facility. There's a concern over maybe a leak in a portion of the facility, and there's a concern over the leak of the geothermal in the ground, perhaps. We've also had a contractor that specializes in geothermal come to site, and they're assessing, and we're waiting back for their complete assessment on this. So the one thing that will come to play here, council, is I hope this has updated you as best as I possibly can right now. But before we do anything with this, we will come back and we will ask your opinion on what avenue you'd like to see us go with this and the repair. And then we'll come back again because it's going to be a tendered situation if approved in this capital budget.
Okay, Gary, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but please go ahead, chief.
Mike covered it all right there. There are many problems with the system and we haven't made the final decision, or we don't even have that information yet. So that will come to council for approval. Just reiterating that.
Okay, thank you. Take it away, Kristen.
All right, I was hoping that we could maybe approve each department as we go. So if we could move that in principle, the fire and protection budget be approved in principle.
The chair concurs with that thinking as well. I know that when we get to certain capital, there may be more debate on certain things, and I don't want one segment of this budget to delay the entire product that's being presented to us. And I think those are wise words, Kristen, and we certainly will. Council, you're referring to fire and protection first. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let's open fire and protection up for discussion, council. Is there any discussion you'd like to ask to our chief or our treasurer through the chair? Yes, Mark, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Well, can I go back to near the beginning of the presentation? There's a page there that says, where are we at right now? And it says, the way this presentation reads, total tax rate increase of 3.88%. Then in brackets, it says it would translate to a 6.3% municipal rate increase. How does that work? Assuming zero change in the county and school board levies, and there's no change, impact isn't changing the assessed values of anything. So how does a 3.88% transfer into an actual 6.3% rate increase?
It's got to do with the assessments. So if some treasurers percent on the municipal tax rate increase, I tend to use the 3.88 because I think that's more reflective of what the taxpayers are actually going to see. Because if this includes the portion that the school board currently has and that the county currently has, so their current tax rates right now. So the way the taxes are apportioned with the assessments brings the total tax rate to 3.88.
Follow up, Councilor McGill.
So I just want to make sure I was understanding it correctly. So the 3.88 is what the property owner is going to see in the rate increase.
Provided no increase in county and school board.
Yeah. And
Which
the
we don't have
6.3
control
would
over.
be the amount more we would actually be collecting in taxes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I understand that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kristen, for clarifying that. Yes, Councilor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Earlier, you said something about full-time fire chief, increased cost of whatever it was. So does that mean that we need a full-time fire chief, or is there any discussion on that, or?
Well, we can open that for discussion. Would you look? And yeah, we can do this, but you're also talking about identifying individuals as well. And we have to be cautionary there. Kristen, do you want to add or close this subject to this, or Mike?
I'm probably best to give you a broad overview. So there is a requirement. What we have noticed here in the municipality and other municipalities that I have been with is it's very easy to slip out of compliance. And having somebody that handles that on a compliance basis, we can establish efficiencies. You've got to make sure your gear is up to snuff. You got to make sure your trucks are up to snuff. You got to make sure your volunteers are flowing through, trained properly, all these good things. And there's some efficiencies that can be gained from this moving, because I can tell you, and I'm being very careful here, I can tell you that there have been efficiencies found not only by the fire chief in maybe eliminating some other roles that can be absorbed into that. And I know there's some administrative roles that can be absorbed into this as well. So it's well advised by this administration that we go this road, not only from a compliance standpoint, but enhanced services and our whole complement when it comes to fire in this municipality, particularly when we are seeing some sensitivity when it comes to our neighbors and maybe where we're gonna end up here in the next
That's
5
true.
years.
Okay, Martin, I'll courtesy of a follow-up. You're okay with that?
Yeah, so what is the exact increase in the cost and the renters for that?
Kristen, we'll put that over to our treasurer.
55,729
Okay,
for the year.
Okay. For the year, okay. Okay, so it's about $50 a year on the average property rent, approximately, is it? Thereabouts, average taxes? Less than that, far less than that, maybe 5, yeah, okay. Okay, council, any further questions from the floor? I'm looking for hands up, discussion on the fire and protection capital detail. Seeing none, what's council's wish? If there's no discussion. We have a recommendation before us that in principle, council approves the facilities and recreation project. And I see that this qualifies with the word in principle, meaning there may be some changes down the road. Alan, could you define that?
Which just as quick clarification, Your Worship, we changed the order this morning so that we could accommodate the chief's schedule.
Yep.
So we're actually on the fire and protection.
Oh, fire, sorry, yeah. Yeah, fire protection, you're at the second recommendation, is that correct?
Yes, Your Worship.
Yeah, well, that's the one in principle, the fire and protection budget is approved. Is there a motion coming forth on that? I don't see any discussion. Councillor Choi, you're moving that. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Myers has seconded that. Last call for questions. Okay, it is before you. It's been explained. See a nominal taxing addition to that, higher level of service. The chair will call a question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion's carried. And Kristen, where now? What part of this document would you like to take council to at this point?
All right, thank you very much. So the next area of focus is Public Works. So this is the breakdown. We could see earlier just this overall summary of just the line item for Public Works. You can see here the breakdown of streetlights. Part of that increase is for an additional light on Dougal. Operating expenditures, vehicle maintenance. So a large part of those operating expenditure increases are the roads. Vehicle maintenance, minimal in the Public Works buildings here. You can see that there's the effect of the income for waste management and nominal increase in drainage. So the majority of this is roads and sidewalk clearing. So for capital, we're proposing improvements to the operations center. So specifically offices, lunchroom, washrooms, concrete floor in the cold bay, which is currently dirt, HVAC, and some paving in there. Decorative street identification signs, which we're going to pull from the community entrance signs that we had raised last year that council chose to forgo. Bridges and culverts is quite high this year. That's as a result of the OSIM report that we just got back. It's a mandatory evaluation program of all bridges and culverts. We can fund that majority through OSIF and then a little bit through gas tax. So that's really almost, we need to do that from a liability perspective as well. So that would include 4 culverts there. You can see 113, 109, 133, and 210, and 1 bridge, 204. Our grader currently our 1 grader is a 2005 with 13,000 hours. Has started to undergo significant repairs, needs replacement. So that would be debentured as well, which would leave about 50,000 for roadworks to be determined to remaining from OSIF funding. Likely, if we don't have that earmarked currently for anything. So unless something significant comes up, we could just flow that into a larger road project for next year. Hopefully we'll be bringing forward in the next month the roads need study results. So we'll have some funding for that. And then sidewalk replacement. So we didn't have, due to the magnitude of the OSIM report findings for the bridges and culverts, usually we fund the sidewalk replacement with gas tax. But we have still a sidewalk reserve fund of 129,000. So we're proposing to use all that so that we can, keep the bridges and culverts up and not fall behind on our sidewalk replacement plan. So any questions with Public Works?
Yes, Martin, did I see your hand go up? I was looking. Did you have a question, Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
First thing is the central operations, central. First of all, I'll just say right on front, I'm not voting for any more paving unless it's in both the townships, and paving is in here as well. Again, this is sort of out of the blue, a $1,500,000 expenditure. And so I wonder who decides this sort of thing that all of a sudden we're going to spend $1,500,000. At one time, I had one of the workers tell me, if we're going to spend that kind of money, then I think Public Works should go back to Pratt siding. It's a safety hazard moving all the equipment through the village. And from Glencoe to Walnut Drive, you're looking at 13 miles. So it's not even efficient to have it right there. So if you're going to spend that kind of money, then maybe it should go towards Pratt siding.
Our fiduciary responsibility is to examine all of Southwest Middlesex, not one particular ward, particularly at budget time. We have to make sure what's fair to all. And as you know, that this position was once held in this building, and that employee was moved back to that area. And we live in a different world. Our washroom requirements are different. We have to have certain standards for employees, and that is where a lot of this came from. CAO, I think I saw your hand up. Mike, go ahead, please.
Just a quick answer for the counselor. The question was, this was out of the blue, and who decides this? The answer is you do. We bring you what the needs are for the requirement that we see in the community and for our staff and for the people to move the community forward. But this is what we do. We bring you ideas at Capitol, and then you decide. So this is just president. We're not here living or dying by this. We're bringing this to you for consideration, and that's what budget's for. So we'll wait on you.
Okay, 2 hands up. I saw Councillor Haga's hand first, followed by Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Link. I won't forget you. You'll have your follow up after these 2 councillors have a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I worked in that building and it hasn't changed since 1998. The bathroom's too small, the lunchroom's for 3 people, and stuff there needs to be attended to if that's going to be our main building. That's all, just so for your information, because I've been in the building and like I worked at it. And for the amount of men we have there and what we have, things there need to be attended. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Schuldice, followed by Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I see that it includes new offices, and I'm just wondering what offices will be moving out to the garage.
So basically what we're proposing is an addition onto the, let's say the east side of the building, which would have an office for the public works supervisor and a smaller office for the foreman. And then also we're including a lunchroom / training room, so that we can host some training there too, with a upgraded washroom with locker room, shower, and also make it AODA accessible and have a universal washroom too.
Yep, no problem.
And
Go
I was
ahead.
wondering,
Deputy Mayor.
did we contract contractors, or how did we come to this price of 1.5 million?
So I've been working with the chief building official. He provided me with some price per square foot that was used to determine building values for permits. So we're looking to do a design build method tender to go out. So at that time, I worked with the chief building official. He provided some information for price per square foot, and that was the estimate that I used.
Okay, thank you. I think that we do need some improvements there, but I think this is overkill. We don't need to spend this kind of money right now. I don't think this is the right time to be doing this. And I wondered if we could pull it out for a separate vote when we approve
All
the
right.
public works.
Yeah, we're still in discussion. Kristen, I saw your hand. We'll allow Councillor Vink to have a word first. I promised him he'd have the floor next. There are going to be questions on this, even in terms of perhaps some discussion on phasing too. If it's too much for this year, maybe we could phase this over a period of 2 years. So, and but Councillor Vink, it's your turn on the floor. You've been patient enough to wait.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm taking exception to your personal attack. I have voted for millions of dollars here in Glencoe. I'm the one that passed the motion to do the paving on the development. And, but nothing is ever going into Moser Township. And here you are questioning me, about trying to stick up for my own municipality, for my own area where I live. And, we are getting, we're not even getting crumbs off the table. And you are personally attacking me for
I
defending
thought it
my
was fairly-
own, area where I live.
Fairly polite and just reiterating our responsibilities under the Municipal Act here are to look at Southwest Middlesex as a whole. It's written down. We have taken an obligation to that effect. And I think the opening remarks to the budget also indicated that we spend a significant amount of money in public works and roads. Councillor Choi, thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to, well, I have two questions.
Go ahead.
Through you to the Public Works Manager, what is the square footage of the addition? And do you think we could do a phased-in approach?
Through your worship, yeah, the addition, so the price incorporates not just the addition, but also the cold bay, I call it, where the dirt floor is. We're looking to include a concrete floor, some floor drains. Typically, you'll have to have a oil grid interceptor when that happens, and also provide some heat in that area too. So the addition component is one cost of it, and it's roughly around 14 to 1,500 square feet is what we're incorporating. What we're thinking now, of course, when we do the design build method, contractors with their engineers will also present some designs to us. So we don't know exactly, depending on the area, how much we can fit in that off that one end of the building. So, but we're anticipating between 14 and 15 square feet maximum for the addition component.
Okay, yes, go ahead, Councillor Troy, your follow up.
Thank you. And how long is the debenture for? Sorry, I'll have to look. And that's a good point. I wanted to bring up while I'm looking at that I'm just gonna have to stop sharing for a second, that from a financial perspective, the cost of construction isn't going to go down. So doing the entire thing and then paying for it over 25 years
in total, yeah. Effectively raises about 60,000 a year, so that that's kind of a phased in tax approach.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand that, yes. And, Mr. Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to help out council here because the majority of this project is debentured. And I don't disagree with the deputy mayor's comments over there may be a substantial dollar value attached to this. I had this discussion actually with the manager of public works yesterday. While he's going off of numbers that are provided from industry perspective from the CBO, I have numbers of personal experience in construction. So I too disagree with the number. As for keeping it separate, the $60,000 that's in the tax rate could be moved to a debenture situation. Again, though, I stress to council, this still would come back to you for consideration later anyway because of the procurement policy. So if it is approved at this point and you don't want it to hit the tax base, you could just vote for it to be debentured down the road. At that point, we would go to tender, design, build, come back, probably form a committee to help select some of the features of the facility if desired. And then it would come back to council for consideration regardless. And it could come back at a substantially lesser rate. This is based on construction costs today out there in this type of format.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Councillor Choi.
Thank you. Where is the rest of the community entrance signs reserve? I remember seeing it somewhere, but I wasn't exactly.
It's in facilities and recreation. It's coming.
Okay. Is there a way, could we not do the decorative street identification and put those funds into the Glencoe Operations Center improvement?
If that's what council chooses, yes. Yeah, those are not obligatory reserves.
Councillor McGill.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I was going to ask a question about the decorative street identification. I just wondered where that would be. Like, I know I've had people comment to me that on Glendon Drive, the signs marking all the side municipal roads are really small. You can hardly see them till you're right on top of them. But out on the old 80 highway, there's nice signs, a lot bigger that you can read from the distance. So, you know, where are these decorative street signs going to go? And if they were, like for the example I gave was on Glendon Drive, along there from Melbourne Road to Glencoe. That's the one place I noticed that they're probably small when you're going out towards Newbury into Ward 3 as well. Would that be something maybe that could be used for?
I think I can speak to that. You asked where will they go. The recommendation was put in and it was identified quite specifically that would be for the downtown core from McCrae Street to I believe it was the Appin Road. And the reason it was suggested, there is some wear and tear on what we have. We have put up new street lighting in there with a different type of pole than you see out in the peripheries of the main core, such as no frills. They're aluminum poles, but you've got a decorative light standard there. The main core area, where I should say a substantial amount of taxation is received, would be just for that 3-block area. It's not necessary to put decorative street poles in any other area of the municipality other than the cores of Glencoe, Wardsville, or Mount Bridges. They're not a common standard. They are a decorative standard for a downtown core to give it some flair, some ambience, to keep our business district viable and fresh. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think there's more money in that reserve for community entrance signs, is there not? What is it, 25,000 maybe total?
It was 30 in total.
Because I wondered if we could actually expand this a bit. If we're going to use 11,200 just in Glencoe, could we use the rest of it to improve the signage out in the country, which happens to be Ward 1 and Ward 3? Because I know the signage there isn't very good. Like I said, you can't see those signs, especially at night, until you're right on top of the intersection, and by then it's too late. You know, so, and as far as we talk about where the taxes come from, well, actually, it's in Kristen's presentation. Ward 1 is first in taxes paid, then Ward 3, then Ward 2. So, yeah, that would be my thought on this signage.
Counselor Haggett.
So are you talking the county roads? Or are you talking back roads? Because the county roads are separate from our roads, correct?
Through the mayor, if I could, I'm assuming, and I might be wrong on this, those signs are on the county roads, but they're showing the names of our streets. So do we have to pay for those signs? I'm assuming we have to pay for them, not the county. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think they have our logo on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would anticipate if they're Southwest Middlesex identification, then most likely we would contribute a cost to that.
Okay. We'll keep discussion moving along so that we can get on. Any further questions? Any follow-ups, Jody? You're okay? Okay, all right. Kristen, go ahead.
So do we want to vote on the Capital Works operating and the capital? We can do it all together, or
Unless perhaps we can break it down.
break it down,
into
yeah.
Things, sometimes we can get stuck on a particular issue, and I just want to reiterate our CAO's remarks that this is a map that we have. A budget is a map that that kind of points us in the right direction. But these expenditures and through our procurement policies, these tenders will come to council for their approval, and we will be the ultimate decision maker on whether that money will be spent through the guidelines of our procurement policy. Yes, Councillor Vink.
You Mayor, I'll just want a clarification. Maybe Kristen already touched on this, but how come we saved $280,000 on waste management?
Go ahead, Kristen.
Yes, that is, we had to transition to that circular materials program, if you'll recall a little while ago. So we, the producers of the recyclable material are responsible for their costs of disposal now. So we still maintained our contract with Waste Management for the pickup and disposal of waste and recycling. So we're getting refunded for the recycling portion currently. So we've got extra income coming in for that. But just until 2025, and then our costs of collection and disposal will go down, and we won't get that income anymore.
Costing will go down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, one follow up, Martin.
So then, so this is kind of a windfall compared to the year before. So when you look at the overall budget, it could have been, if we didn't have this windfall, it would have been 288,000 higher. Is that correct? Okay.
It was, yeah, the word windfall concerns me a little bit. It was a policy that governance made to get the onus of recycling back on the producers. And it was a concept that is very strong in Europe. Yeah, and Mr. Henry, go ahead.
And I guess that's just to clarify that too, it's no different than if the assessment had to come in this year at a better value too. So it's a give and take in any given time, or a new business relocating here, et cetera.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to come back to the Deputy Mayor's comment regarding the operations center, and I'm going to draw my glasses. I would like to note to council that $60,000 of that is coming from the tax base. So if that's something you just wanted to have as a sole debenture, that could come out of there, and that's 0.5% for consideration, or a little over 0.5% for consideration. I just wanted to point that out.
That's very good. And if the longevity of those renovations are 25 years, it makes sense to measure that. I agree. And particularly at the competitive rate that we can borrow money at, Kristen, and it is competitive. Okay, yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just to further that point, just to clearly point out what I was trying to say was, I'm not opposed to doing this work out there, just not this much. And we've entered projects like this in the past without full details in advance. And it's really come back to backfire on us. And I'm very cautious of this happening.
Go ahead.
Yeah. That's 100% agreed. As pointed out, the number is based on industry standard right now, certainly isn't the number I agree with. And it would come back for council's consideration regardless, and I'm sure it'll come in at a lesser value without question. But again, it does have to come back to you for approval, procurement wise. Yeah. I'm going to apologize for somebody I probably either don't know or do know, but that's certainly not the way we conduct things here over the past year for sure. So.
Yeah, that again, that $60,000 earmarked for that particular project and debentured by accepting that in the public capital detail doesn't mean that we cannot have that transparency and that work and that competitiveness that may bring that cost down. We want to give, as I say, some capital direction to staff to pursue these visions that we see to enable Southwest Middlesex to be all it can be. And those decisions, the final decisions will come back to council. And we can be cognizant of costs at that. Yes, Councilor Myers.
Yeah, getting back to the operations center. We all talk about wards here. You know what? This is for Ward 1, 2, and 3. We need a good facility for these people. We need our trucks to be warm in the wintertime to go plow the snow. And these people deserve this. Our workers deserve this.
Good point. Councilor McGill.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm in favor of the grader. I imagine most of us are. When we see it, it's a 2005 model with 13,000 hours on it, $56,000 in repairs in the past 3 years. How long would that be debentured over?
I think Laura was the one who told me how. 4 years and 4, but it's 20 years, yeah.
Okay. If that answers your question, that's longer than I anticipated. Yeah. But that it helps maintain that competitive tax base. Councilor McGill. Yeah. Okay, council, we've discussed this. Any further questions? Yep, go ahead, Councilor. Think.
I've heard many times before, well, it was in the budget, approved in the budget, so then that's an automatic situation to go ahead with something. Why can't we, with this capital building, later on in the budget, it stated that the new greenhouse operation was going to raise so much money in taxes. Why can't we have a report during the year and budget it for the following year? This way we have a lot more to say on the actual increase that we want.
The the receipt of future taxation cannot be taken into account, but that will assist us in re-examining these numbers. If Kristen has additional revenue that may not require certain items to be debentured, or that we can debenture in a shorter period of time, can be forthcoming. A CAO, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to make it abundantly clear to everybody that will listen, this is just a roadmap. When this is approved at the budget level, it's council's desire to have this information come back when we actually go through with the project and or make a purchase. We still have to follow the procurement policy. This is just a roadmap to say, this is the direction we're all heading together. If I come back with a garage or a grader or something that's over $50,000, you still have to say it's okay at that point. So this is not a carte blanche. We're getting the money and away we go. It gives us the ability to say, we're going to go find out options, come back to this horseshoe and ask for the consideration to be made again at that point. This is a roadmap. This is not carte blanche. This is not you giving us anything right now. That's it. It's a budget.
Thank you. Chair reiterated those same words earlier. Okay, yes, go ahead, Councillor Haggett, and followed by Councillor Choi.
I'm gonna move to.
Accept the public works capital detail?
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask for a seconder, and Councillor Choi, I haven't forgotten yet. Is there a seconder on this? Councillor Myers, discussion, please, Councillor Choi, go ahead first.
Thank you. I was thinking of just moving the 11,200 from Decorative Street identification, moving it over into the 60,000 for the tax base for this year. So then it would lower the tax base. But we already have the motion.
Are you asking for an amendment to that motion?
Sure.
Can I clarify the wording?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
for Alan too, is to remove the decorative street sign identification line item from the Public Works capital budget and reallocate the reserve funding to the Glencoe Operations Center improvements to the tax base. Yes.
I'm gonna ask the person who moved that motion whether you agree with that or not. We'll allow that change in your motion.
I agree.
Will the seconder? Deputy Mayor Scholz, I think I saw your hand go up. Yes. Okay, and Councillor Vink, did I see your hand twitch there? Okay, I didn't want to. Okay, I hope council forgive me if I don't give up the gavel, but you know, we have a business community in Glencoe that is trying to create special events, night markets, things like this, and there has to be some ambience, some tidiness in that downtown core in order to bring people in. We cannot have a sustainable business area with the small population that we have. We have to bring people from outside of Southwest Middlesex to patronize our businesses in order for them to remain on the street. They work extremely hard at creating an atmosphere of advancement, of enthusiasm, and I think your downtown core, for the amount of taxation that they receive, we're very modest in the way we clean streets, we're modest in the way we sweep streets, and this would be just something that I think would bolster the enthusiasm of the downtown core, and I don't agree. But anyway, any further discussion? Yes, Mark, go ahead.
I would have preferred to just vote on the amendment first, but it sounds like it's like a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
It's been incorporated into the,
I think the chair would entertain a vote. I think that is a good point of order. I think we will vote on the amendment. I think it'll make it easier for to clarify, you know, our movement on the recommendations of staff. So the chair will ask that we call a vote on the amendment that 11,600 be moved towards the renovation of the works garage. Is there any further questions or some councilors who have a speak? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Oh, well, point of order.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to clarify that. I believe the recorded vote was on the entirety of it. Yeah, not on this one. Okay. All right. So there's no recorded vote on the amendment.
Your worship, just for clarification for the entire group, my understanding is that the friendly amendment as proposed by Councillor Choi is inclusive of the entire budget being approved with that amendment, not that we vote on that individual line independently. If this vote were to fail, we would fall back to the original resolution, which was just to pass as presented.
I'm sure council have that agreement, and I don't recall the word friendly being mentioned. So, okay, all right.
Additionally, this is for the entire Public Works budget, not specifically capital, correct? Capital and operating. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
That complicates things, I think, for.
Council, this vote is only on the amended portion of the motion, isn't it correct?
It's an amendment on top of the original motion.
And
So
it'll
they're
fall,
together.
and it'll fall to the other though, if this one fails.
If failed, it just goes back to passing the budget as presented.
Okay.
Yep, okay, I see. So if this motion fails, we go back and ask the horseshoe for their consideration of the budget as presented. Okay, any clarification needed? Thank you, Councilor Choi, for your patience on that. Any other questions? All in favor? Or would you like to read that? Oh, it's a recorded vote. And read the motion that gives clarification. Okay. Chair asks if you read.
That the working on that.
And it's necessary to have this recorded. I think it was the intent of our deputy mayor not to have this particular stuff recorded. Go ahead, Councilor Fink.
Mayor Allen, I don't believe, Deputy Mayor asked for a recorded vote on the amendment.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna ask
So
Alan to clarify this. Can
Absolutely.
the wishes of council come to reality, or is this a procedural matter?
Well, so as we stand right now, there's been an amendment to the original resolution, which was inclusive of the original resolution. So we have that the decorative street sign identifications be removed from the budget, and the portion it be apportioned to the Glencoe Operations Center's improvements tax base line, and that in principle the public works budget be approved. That is everything all at once. So in that, the deputy mayor had asked for a recorded vote on this portion of the budget in total, totality. So I infer from him that we're going to do a recorded vote right now.
Yes, go ahead.
I would prefer to have the amendment voted on separately if possible, and then the overall motion.
In addition,
When I asked for the recorded vote, it was for the overall motion. The amendment wasn't on the table.
I'm gonna jump in.
before you do, Mr. Henry, the chair announced that they would like to not do the whole thing at once, to divide it into the capital detail. We would call the vote on the with the details the presentation has been delivered in, that the chair asked or informed the horseshoe that we would separate the two out. We'd do the capital detail and take one slide at a time. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Henry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking to save some bureaucracy here for everybody. So I think if Councillor Choi's amended version that was friendly, if it was perhaps rejected by the original notion maker and viewed separately, we could avoid the circumstance. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but what's happened is this is an amendment to that. So it's
Wasn't my question. My question was, is if Councillor Haga says, no, I don't approve of that amendment, then we go back to the original one that would be recorded, and then council could therefore decide what they're going to do with funds after the fact.
That is correct. However, it has been approved.
Carry on. Let's try to avoid this moving forward.
We can't get caught up in this forever. Allow two more.
All right. Your worship, I'm just gonna jump in here because we're getting real complex. May I address Amy Choi through you? Thank you. Councillor Choi, can we address that amendment as an individual line, not including the entire budget? So we would vote on whether the decorative street identifications be removed and that money be apportioned to the Glencoe Operations Center improvements. Is that?
We can do it separately.
Thank you very much. Let's do that.
Thank you. I hate to see an entire budget held up on $11,000. Okay. Okay. So and as I understand it, just Mr. Bushel, that this is this a recorded vote or not a recorded vote? It was,
Your worship, after conferring with the deputy mayor, this is not a recorded vote.
okay, thank you, as long as the chair knows. Everything's clear to council? Appears so, no hands, all in favor of the motion? All opposed? Motion's defeated. It's tied. Okay, now, where are we now? We go back to Councilor Haggis' motion that this be approved, the public works capital detail budget be approved. And council has the understanding that the exorbitant cost of money will be reported to council and we make the decisions on that. And I believe Mr. Myers seconded Councilor Haggis' motion that we proceed with the recommendation. Is there any questions? Chair will call recorded vote.
Yes, your worship.
Okay, thank you. I'll hand it over to Mr. Bushel.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so we'll be yes or no, and I'm gonna go from my left to my right, with the mayor being last, as I've done in every other recorded vote. Councilor Myers.
Yes.
Councilor Hager.
Yes.
Councilor Vink.
No.
Deputy Mayor Mike Schultes.
No.
Councilor McCollum. Councilor McGill.
No.
Councilor Choi.
No.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Looking for a little advice here. Is it possible to approve this with that one line item taken out so that we can move forward?
Somewhat, yes. There should be some sort of place mark for it as a budget item. I defer to the treasurer on this one because if you're not going to have it in the plan of budget and allocated funds, we could bring it back and then pull from reserves later on in the year, I assume.
Yeah, I was gonna clarify when Mike was explaining it earlier too, that really what council would be approving in this budget is that staff would look at options for center improvements and bring it back to you, but mostly that you're raising $60,000 in taxes this year to go towards that. So even if you voted to approve raising the 60,000 in funds this year from the tax base, and we brought it back to you later, you could still choose to forego it. Or the same thing we did with the signs that we did last year too. We raised the 30,000 and then did not move forward with the project. So really what you'd be voting for is the amount to raise in the tax base. So if you elected to decrease that to 30,000 this year, we could do that and still, you know, Morrow could still investigate and bring it back to council. And we can move forward from there, but that way it's still flagged as a project for Morrow to investigate and bring back to council for their input. And raising some amount of money for it this year will at least alleviate the tax burden going forward.
Yeah, deferring it to 2 years will have a beneficial impact on our rate and still keep the vision viable, so to speak. Deputy Mayor?
For now, I think I'd like to have the rate completely out and have more information in the future come forward and then make a decision at that point.
Okay, so we would probably, it's kind of a backward request, but I'm here to entertain whatever anybody's putting on the table to keep things going. So I would recommend that the Public Works budget, overall budget, be accepted in principle. Alan, you're on this, right? Accepted in principle with the removal of the Glencoe Operations Center improvements, but staff are directed to continue investigating options for council's consideration at a later date.
That's you got it.
Yeah. And
It's virtually the same thing, council. It's just you have an earmark and then we come back anyway because we have to come back anyway, correct? So
And thank you, Mr. Henry, for clarifying that. That eases my concerns somewhat. If you want your administration to come back and inform you of what things are gonna cost and what the vision can be, they need acceptance of, they would have needed acceptance of the 60,000 to bring back the information to council. To ask, if you want more information to be brought back, can only happen if they have that money in the budget to move forward with. They are told what to do by council. And but with that explanation from our CAO, my concerns are alleviated somewhat, because I do not want to stop staff from investigating this.
That's just one.
Sorry, to clarify, if we have the direction to do so, we're still being paid.
Yeah, one more question.
Just wondered if we could schedule an on-site sometime to just do a walk around there and maybe get a better visualization of what you have in mind, and then everybody on council has a
Great
really
idea.
clear idea what's.
See a lot of enthusiasm from staff, so yes, absolutely.
Good suggestion. Yep. Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to remove the decorative street identification and those reserve funds to go to something that would reduce the tax base. Is there a way to pull it out? That one.
What is our impact on our tax paid on that 11,000? What's our impact? Done, because we're pulling it out of the reserves of the signs. Is that not correct?
Like they
Yeah.
paid for it last
0.9.
year. So it's already been pulled from that place. So that's why I'm feeling that it should be going back to reduce it.
If I may, your worship, would the treasurer please give us the update with the 60,000 out, what the tax rate is at that point? That may help council keep moving forward.
Yes, with the 60,000 out and the 11,200 still in, it brings us down to 3.33.
Piece by piece.
And then with if we take that 11,200 out and apply it to something else, that would bring us down to 3.23.
0.1%.
Mm-hmm.
Did the motion not already fail to try to prove this?
I'll have our clerk clarify that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, this item has been discussed and voted on. At this point in time, for that to be revisited in this meeting, we would need the mover and the seconder to have voted against it. So, because they were on the presiding side. So the presiding side has to reconsider.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I need to here because the deputy mayor talked about a new motion. And he brought forth a new motion to have that removed. So it's a totally new subject as far as I'm concerned, because it is a whole new presentation of capital. And that's therefore a whole new presentation of the public works budget. So I'm going to stand my ground on this one. And I'm going to suggest that the motion that I had made that helped with, sorry, my bad wording, was that the public works budget be approved in principle with the removal of the operations center and with staff being directed to still seek options in that regard and come back to council at a later date. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for Councilor Myers? Discussion from the worship. Councilor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So, what about Amy's amendment?
It was previously addressed by this portion.
Well, I thought the CAO mentioned that that was no longer in effect, and this is a new presentation. I agree with what Amy is saying. I like to see what Councilor Choi is saying.
Make your point.
Through the mayor, I agree with the CAO's interpretation of this. I think that could stand. So, but with that said, the CAO has proposed a resolution that doesn't include it.
That's right, and it has been accepted and moved by our deputy mayor, and it has been seconded by Councillor Myers. I have a motion on the floor. The chair is obligated to move forward with this. Yes,
And just to go back to an earlier conversation, the deputy mayor has requested any full votes on this budget to be recorded. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
okay. It has been moved and seconded. Questions, Councillor Vink?
Maybe, Councillor Choi wants to do this, but, she can go ahead, but, I'd like to make an amendment to put in what Councillor Choi mentioned as far as the streetlights in this, motion.
Is this an amendment you want to ask the mover and the seconder as a friendly amendment, or you want to vote on the amendment, propose it as an amendment, see if I can get a second?
As a friendly amendment.
Ask the mover and the seconder if you want to make that change in your motion.
You have discretion in this moment. You can not approve it, and then we'll have a vote on the amendment, or you can approve it and it will be included in the resolution. Okay, thank you. And I'll just, for safety's sake, address Councillor Myers. Is that okay? Okay, so we do have this as friendly amendment with the proposed idea. Okay, yep.
Okay, and this is a recorded vote.
Okay. So, Your Worship, may I proceed?
Yep.
Thank you very much. This is yes or no. Ed Myers. Councillor Haga. Councillor Vink.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mike Schuldice.
Yes.
Councillor McCollum.
Yes.
Councillor McGill.
Yes.
Councillor Choi.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, staff administration, for your assistance in getting us through that. It's much appreciated. Kristen, we are doing reasonably well, okay? So, and we are making that tax rate competitive. And I'll ask you if you'd be kind enough to carry on.
I sure will. Thank you very much. Right. There we go. So facilities and recreation is next. I know it seems like there's a lot of information on here. It's apportioned out by cost center, basically by facility, and overall $58,000 higher than the prior year. So a very moderate tax or increase in costs here. As far as capital goes, we are proposing 400,000, but only 40,000 to be raised through the tax base this year for an accessible park at Littlekin. A memorial garden for 30,000 from reserves. Arena corridor benches. Sorry, I skipped some. A pickup truck and a zero-turn lawnmower, debentured. We have set the operating budget up such that we have, because we have more full-time staff, we have the staff doing more of the lawn mowing. So if we were to remove these from budget, we would have to add back in contracting costs for lawn mowing, because we've already adjusted the operating budget to omit those contracting costs for about, I think about 28,000. I think. Yes, yeah, about 9,000 a month. So to have our staff instead do that. Arena corridor benches, I think that's the part of the remaining. Oh no, it's not. From reserves, Project 2000 renovations. This would be contingent on a Lions donation and a successful, I think it's an accessibility I don't have that on there, an accessibility grant. An air fryer for the arena, which would be a self-contained unit we could put upstairs in the kitchen upstairs. It's got an enclosed venting system so that it's not a hazard. Office renovations to come from reserves in here. Historical Society building windows. That's the remaining 18,800 from the signs. Yeah. And then asphalt for Appen Park between the parking lot and the park. So in total, for those projects, 77,000 to be raised through the tax base this year.
Okay, thank you, Kristen, for that. And Kevin, thank you for working with staff on this and to bring a very realistic request to the horseshoe. Are there questions, council? You'd like to ask Kristen through the chair or Kevin through the chair? Perhaps I can start off this air fryer for the arena. This would I was very impressed with the kitchen facilities that we have. They're very commercial, all stainless steel, heavy duty. This would bring this addition of this air fryer would bring it up to near cafeteria status. Correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And that was a concern expressed by some of the electric. And the only other thing, Kristen, the only other question I have, and I asked this tongue in cheek, the pickup truck for the half-ton pickup truck for recreation. I believe drainage asked for a pickup truck in the past, and it was denied by this council. And there was some concern. Is this the only truck in the 2024 budget presentation? You haven't picked that up on drainage yet?
Nope, this is the only one in there.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that because I know that drainage put forth a reasonable argument for acquisition of the truck, and that was denied by council. Okay, any other questions? I'll take the councilors in the order that I saw their hands. Councilor Myers, Deputy Mayor, Councilor Joy.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that half-ton pickup that denied last year, for Mr. Neely. He is part-time here, right? He's a part-time employee here.
No. He's a full-time employee,
He's gonna be here half
but we
the
do
time.
contract him out.
We
Yeah.
got there, but we're
Yeah.
paid for that contract.
Thanks.
Mhm.
This pickup is for our full-time, everyday run around, stuff we do every day. So, you know what? I'm for that. So, anyway.
Deputy Mayor, and then followed by Councilor Choi.
But could you tell me how much we paid for the accessible park in Appen? What did we budget for the park in Appen for the playground?
400,000?
I thought it was 250, but I could be wrong. I
No.
don't have it.
No, I think and that may be Deputy Mayor Scholas. I revised it, I think when I came because I just built one and that's how much it cost.
I recall.
Yeah, yes.
That, I think it was substantial, the Appen Park, yeah.
And I just wondered if I could have one follow-up.
Yep. No problem.
Thank you. For the Little Kin Park, and we need to do some research there. Has there been any leads on getting ground penetrating radar?
So administration advises that perhaps we have a solution to this because the community there has suggested that maybe the memorial garden be put in place, as you'll see on line 2 of the Capitol, and that adequate space would be provided, that a scan wouldn't necessarily be necessary, and that we would put it back with a little bit of a buffer zone, if you will, and then fenced off and made a memorial garden, and not have to go through the extenuating circumstance of the scan that could take a year and a half to get.
Okay, I'm just not sure whether staff has the information on, there is a bit of historical information out there on where the church and cemetery was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
and
have
we
that?
have some of that,
Yeah.
yes.
All also, that was named, the church is there, that cemetery, photographs have been identified, and I will contact the diocese of Sharon, they'll have archival records of those plots and who's in there.
I have all the surveys and whatnot going back to the.
That'd be very-
So
very
if you
helpful.
need it, just let me know.
Yeah, very helpful. And that's kind of the intent, to avoid that portion, to keep things moving for the people up there as well. And then we can talk about the accessible portion as council sees fit.
Yes, Councillor Choi first, followed by Councillor McGill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question, I think I will ask the CAO. The half-ton pickup truck, is there a way to have that shared between departments? I know fire has requested a truck before. So could it be a shared truck?
Through your worship, absolutely. In fact, there's one thing that I'm sure starting to see here is because of the people that have been put in place here, the sharing of equipment, the sharing of services, the assistance crossing over departmentally is very, very encouraged here. And I'm sure I can speak for the chief and all the department heads that everything would be shared accordingly in whatever's necessary. And that's already starting to happen. So yes, strongly encouraged.
Good question, Councillor Choi, and good answer, Mr. Henry. Any further questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor. And I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead first. You kind of lost your line there.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Now, getting to this half-ton pickup truck, is this an additional truck or are we retiring an old truck? An additional truck. So won't that help the situation with the drainage superintendent? Because if we have this extra truck, facilities and rec, then maybe Andrew won't have to be sharing a truck with them.
That situation has been rectified.
That's already been rectified. Yeah, well, that's good because drainage is, it's very important, right? There's a lot of taxes paid by the farmland owners in Southwest Middlesex.
Yeah. Question? Yep, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I don't see it on the screen here, but was there an item for the sunshade? Did I see something to do with the sunshade at the pool?
Yeah, that was in the operating list. Oh, there it is. Right in here.
And I just wondered, why is that in there? What's that to do with?
I'll let Kevin talk to that.
The sunshade there's a gazebo-like structure that's in there right now isn't being utilized. So it gives somebody another piece of area to go sit under, because we do have the one sunshade that covers over the splash pad and part of the pool. And then if you look at the other side of the pool, there is that structure there.
We're not replacing the sunshade.
We're not replacing,
Okay.
we're putting a new sunshade over top of that structure.
Okay, good. Thank you.
It's needed. Councillor Haggett, please go ahead.
When I was looking at Project 2000 renovations, 50-50 split, that's with us and maybe the Lions Club.
Thank you, through your worship. No, it's actually not a plus at all. So there was a grant opportunity that surfaced that I provided to the department head to research. The department head met with a local service club who it was suggested that if they wanted to pay 50% of the project, that perhaps those funds could get matched by a grant program that we would apply for as well. Nothing would be coming from the tax base. Nothing would be coming from our reserves on this. The project would be contingent on getting funding from both those parties.
Okay. Yep, and yes, Councillor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. In light of that subject, will it be fully accessible after this cost?
We would have no choice, Councillor Vink. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, no. We would absolutely. We have to comply with the building code. So yes, we would not only have no choice, but it's the right thing to do. So, all right, you doing okay? Your mood's better.
No, not really.
Okay.
Time for action.
Okay, I think the hands that I saw previously, I think I have given you the opportunity to ask your questions. Is there any other? Yes, Councillor Choi, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Is there any way to use the $11,200 on these items?
Yes, ma'am. I was
It
gonna
could be
bring that
used.
up. Yep, we could use that for anything with a tax-based impact, so towards the remaining pickup truck, or probably the pickup truck is where I would put it. Just because there's $12,000 tax impact there.
Thank you, Kristen. Councillor Haggett.
Is there any way we could use some of that towards bumping up the Canada project? Like maybe from 1,000 we're at to maybe 4 or 5 or even 3?
Well, I'm sure, yeah, and that's a good point, Councillor Haggett. Council can let that simmer in their thoughts. But that's a good suggestion. Yes, Councillor McGill.
Like to mention, I like seeing how this asphalt for Appen Park is in there, because at times people have to park on the grass. Parking lot's not big enough. And so yeah, so would this be making the parking lot bigger as well as paving it?
I think I can speak to that. No expansion to the parking lot, is just an area in front of the equipment area itself. It gives us an accessible lead up to that area as well because of the stones. So no, it's not expanding on the parking lot formation.
And also in the past, it's been mentioned there that parking behind the Appen Hall, the lighting's not good there. I think all there is in the back is one light on the back of the building, and there'll be events there at night, and people are basically parking in the dark.
Okay, that would be an operational matter that the department can look into and perhaps draw from. Oh, you got it in here too? Beautiful.
It's in there already.
Address the safety. Any further questions? Chris and I have a couple expenses here. They're related specifically to the arena, the benches in the corridor, the air fryer, things of that nature. The money that was raised, I think $26,000 or $27,000, that was raised donations to the arena. Can that be allocated to some of these, or is that for specific? Is that for specific areas, or where does that appear in your budget?
It isn't appearing in here right now. Those can be, they're not, they can be used for any part of the arena. They were just general donations for the arena. So generally that would go to the offset capital costs or capital improvements. So I did not include them at all in this budget.
Okay. Could they be allocated towards one of these entities? If it was earmarked for the arena, I would not put it in any other.
Now these are both being funded from reserves,
Okay.
so it wouldn't
Okay, wouldn't
really.
affect the tax base.
No.
Mr. Henry, if you have anything ticking up there in your head.
I'm just trying to avoid the circumstance we ran in with Public Works. So if I could encourage council here, maybe to, I know Councillor Choi asked to move the 11.2 to something. It wasn't a motion. I know Councillor Haggith said he'd like to see 5,000 put to the Canada Day situation. So perhaps a motion that would suffice both parties might be warranted here to assist Kristen as to where to put the money and what that would look like afterward.
Yeah, it may be a can of worms. We just opened up. So anyway, Kristen, give us some direction on that.
Sure. I would, you could make a motion that the 11,200 saved in the streetlight identification, the
Street
signs be allocated 50% towards increasing donations for Canada Day and 50% towards offsetting the tax cost of the pickup truck. Does that sound? That sound okay?
I see heads nodding. I don't see any questions. Deputy Mayor? Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded. Questions? Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Obviously, half of 11,000 is 5,500. So I don't think Councillor Hagan was asking for $5,500 for Canada. So how much like I think we should figure out what we need and then vote on it. So if it's 3,000, then that's what should come out of that 11,000.
Go ahead, Kristen. I want some clarification on that. Councillor Troy, I did see your hand go up. I'll certainly give you an opportunity to speak. Kristen?
Sure, just a note too that just sets it aside for Canada Day. But the Canada Day budget still comes through that committee to council as well for approval. If that helps at all, it's not just, a blank check for Canada Day.
I don't think that's what Councillor Vink's concern is. So what he's saying is that out of the 11.2, it'd be a modification to the motion that would say 5,000 would go earmarked for Canada Day, and the 6,200 would therefore go toward the truck. Improper math. Oh,
Okay.
you just wanted to go too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it
Okay.
complicates things,
So
doesn't it?
4,000, then 7,200.
Okay. Mr. Bushel?
Back to
Oh, Amy, go ahead, ask your question, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that if the funds weren't used for Canada Day, that they just be set aside.
They'll be held, yeah. That's a given. Mr. Bushel?
One moment, Your Worship. I just want to make sure this is all good here. All right.
11:30, 12? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Your Worship, I apologize for the delay. I just want to make sure we have this all written down right and correct. Okay, so the proposed resolution on the table is that the 11,200 saved in the decorative street identifications be allocated about 4,000 towards Canada Day and 7,200 towards offsetting the pickup truck in the budget, and that in principle, council approved the facilities and recreations capital projects as amended.
Okay. All right. That's fine. And identify the mover and the seconder, please.
Sorry, Your Worship, one clarification. I said capital project. I meant to say capital budget.
Okay. And moved and seconded by who?
It was Councillor Choi and Schuldeis.
Okay. Any questions? Doesn't appear any. I just want to reiterate to council, yesterday, we bought a couple of pickup trucks and they were pretty expensive, county council, but we'd be buying probably a 150 and not a 250, right? Yeah. So there'll be less money. Okay. Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Carry. Okay, thank you again, Kristen. Mush on. Okay, and yeah, and with that change, can you do your math there and advise us of where we are in a tax rate right now? It has sometimes you can come up with a magic number.
So with the 60,000 savings from the operations center and the $7,200 savings for the truck, that would bring us down to 3.27.
3.27, okay. We're getting there.
Yes.
And what are you basing the rate of inflation at for this budget?
It's 3.6.
3.6.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're below inflation, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just. This one. All right. So this isn't entirely relevant anymore now because we've made some changes, but staff felt that if we needed to, if council felt like they needed to bring the tax rate down lower, we could defer Littleton Park a year and or remove the cost, like the cafeteria costs, which is about 13,415. That would mean that we would explore alternate arrangements for Project 2000. So just to keep a couple of things to keep in mind, staff are working to develop a bylaw for council to consider on development charges. So these, should council choose to accept them, they could be used towards expansion of water and wastewater systems, fire protection, for example, a larger fire hall, should we choose to build one in Wardsville, stormwater drainage. And also we have several developments underway. It's hard to quantify the amount of assessment growth that we'll get from that, but it looks that the greenhouse project, for example, should yield us about 225,000 in additional tax revenue in a year. So I guess the pain that we're feeling right now should be a little bit alleviated going forward. And then some notes on the annual repayment limit. This is, again, slightly different because we took out a debenture for the operations center, but this shows, I know it's really little here, and I can try and blow it up a bit, but what this is showing is, maybe that helps too, that we are about 21,000 of debt is falling off after 2024. And we are, if we forego the operations center that 57,600, we are still well within our annual repayment limit. We will have only used less than 1.7 million of the 2.7 million that we have available.
In addition to that too, it is reality that we have 17 condominium units north of or west of Main Street, and that's not a figment of imagination. They are being built, and then you look at these 6 units on John Street that are currently being built and being roofed. So that taxation money on those 23 units will come forth, in addition to what Kristen has mentioned here.
Absolutely, yes. So I know when we talk about pulling things from reserves, that that really freaks people out a little bit. Some of the reserves are very project specific. So when I say that we're using reserves for them, in some cases, that's exactly what they were raised for in taxes. That's what they were meant for. So we're not kicking a can down the road as far as
good point,
catching up with the taxes. So the breakdown here, again, this has changed a little bit, but project specific was 240,000. Tax rate stabilization. In this case, what this means is that I was able to pull some savings forward from the pool being closed early, for example. Some of that I pulled from 2023 to bring back in 2024. So that's not depleting what we had already set aside for tax rate stabilization. And in some cases, the drawn from blanket reserve and savings are amounts that we had raised in taxes and set aside maybe for public works in general, and then we pulled them in for, you know, to cover some of the road surplus or things like that. So, it's not as grim. It's not that we're pulling just 700,000 from our savings and fully depleting our savings. And then the remaining slides show you exactly what we have in reserves right now in 2023 and how I've kind of broken them down, what we've budgeted for in 2024 and what will be remaining. So I don't know that you probably don't need me to go through each one of these individually, but so I guess the only thing remaining is that we have, so if we go back to this budget comparison slide, we've approved public works, fire, recreation. So all that would be left would be general government and planning. And then this general government didn't have any capital specific items. So I didn't have a slide dedicated to them, and we're going to be looking at utilities later. So that really wraps up the rest of this budget. If we just approve the general government or just approve, you know, the operating budget in its entirety in principle.
Thank you, Kristen. And just to reiterate some of your introductory words, some of there's not the flexibility in things like policing, things like that. So we, the council must be attuned to the fact that we can't go in there with a chainsaw and start cutting because some of those are mandatory that we proceed with. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Mayor Allen, is this the time that we can talk about reserves?
I think it could be, sure. Yeah, no problem at all. And yeah, Kristen has just left that, and very appropriate time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to see that we reestablish the Mosa Township Reserve. All the money that was permanently borrowed from the Mosa people, and so that we can start tar and chip program in Mosa Township. Again, I reiterate what I said before. We get crumbs there. I can show you 2 tax notices on my farm, my Wardsville, 2013, 2023. My taxes went up over 300%, and we're not getting any money in our township. And I was talking to someone there on Trillium, and they would like to have theirs tar and chip too. Just we've done aprons in Glencoe. We're doing paving in Appin and more paving in Glencoe. Nothing down our way. So anyway, that's what I'd like to see, that where I was raised, they would have used a 6-letter word. But the money that I was talking about in Mosa Township, I want to see that returned.
All right, that's a comment, not a question. But and as mayor, I have a conversation with you that I am very supportive of the road program, in particular parts of Mosa Township. I think I've expressed that to you, and we'll base it on the road needs study will be coming forward, and we certainly will remember that. I can remember when the Carnegie Library was sold. I thought those funds might be allocated to downtown, and they weren't. They seemed to get absorbed in other areas. But we will not forget the award, Martin, and I look forward to that roads needs study being presented to council.
Well, in my opinion, there should have been something in this budget. And I believe there was a resolution passed in this past year. Maybe Councillor Choi could help me with that. And, there was a resolution.
I'll ask staff to assist us in this endeavor.
I can assist. So there is a benchmark or earmark value to roads upgrade, roads needs, roads construction, roads in general to the public works manager. But that would be coming back to council for consideration once, as mentioned, is completed, for everybody's consideration. So there's money there. It's just we need to be told where to put it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Castrelli.
Yeah, so I've been working very closely with the roads needs study and we've been trying to work out a capital and maintenance budget for this year. Now, due to the increased number of structures and the required funds that we had, we did have some money marked for capital roads and for some for the structures. But due to the large budget required to upgrade our capital for the culverts and bridges, we had to move the money that we were going to use for the roads to our bridges and culverts for 2024. So the study will come with some capital improvements starting in 2025.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Castelli. Yes, Deputy Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. This is a question for our treasurer. I see that we still have some donations that we haven't received applications for. Can they still submit them? They're not too late once we approve this.
No, absolutely. Those are, I leave that in there as a buffer for any last minute requests that come through. And I'll bring those to you and you can decide.
If they're on cemeteries, I was surprised at, but that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right. And I think I think the summer of 2024 will shed some positive light, may make Kristen's life a little easier on this, we hope. Okay, council, as Kristen indicated, there is one segment, one stepping stone to go before our work is done here. Kristen, can you reiterate to council again the direction you'd like to see us follow?
Sure. I would like to say, or maybe the resolution could read that council adopt the 2024 capital and operating budget as amended.
Okay.
And that's with a 3.27% overall tax increase.
I'll ask for questions. Councillor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I mentioned earlier about administration, and I don't think we discussed this at all. It's one of the costs here is a new deputy clerk. It's never been reported to council the need for a new deputy clerk. And I noticed that the increase, and I imagine somewhere along here, increase in administration is from 8% to 10% of the total budget. And for us to make budget decisions, we're not even told what people are making. And I don't think that's right. I don't know what every individual is making in that we employ, and we're supposed to be the boss. And I realize that can't be stated in an open meeting, but this is the sort of thing that, again, we're not being informed.
Our vouchers indicate what our payrolls are. And yes, Kristen, go ahead.
Just to clarify, sorry, administration went from 10% last year to 8% this year. So it actually went down.
That was my interpretation as well. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it hasn't been mentioned to us about the deputy clerk.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yep, this is technically the time of year that these types of things happen. So we assess with budget what we require. This is when you would hear about that and have full assessment. I can tell you that I appreciate what council has done for this community and for this organization, and particularly administration. You have successfully come leaps and bounds with staffing. You've come leaps and bounds with service delivery that you're going to only see excel over the next year, let alone the next 4 to 5. We fought through an OMERS contribution that we were providing to part-time employees and contract employees regardless. We fought to reduce overtime. We now have people taking their holidays in the year that they are supposed to be taking them. We now, by adding in and adjusting the positions that we have, we're getting efficiencies because people are actually not crossing over and doing 18 jobs I've always gone by the adage, you do one or two things really, really well. You don't do six things, sort of good, if I could put it that way. And succession planning is priority. Someone exits the organization or had have exited this organization a year ago, it would have been chaos. And now we actually have people in the right seats on the bus, moving in the right direction. So yes, this is a form of succession planning as we move forward. There's an asset management component that we need to 100% aggressively embark on. The GIS, we basically don't have that here, but we've got people that have those skills. But the addition of a body in this regard is going to help alleviate some of the people that we can activate those skills with. So this is absolutely a necessity to move forward and carry on properly like we should have in the past, but we're there now. So I thank you.
Thank you, Liz. The compliment is appreciated. And Kristen's nodding her head, so okay, that's good.
And add to that, I know every single grant we apply for right now, every single one is contingent on our asset management plan. And that has the GIS component that is feeding information from every department into one. It's not just a financial piece. It's the growth needs study goes into that. Everything goes into that. So it's actually becoming one of the most important guiding documents that we have now.
That's correct. And the previous council had the foresight to accept that and get it on the road, and
So we
other
do-
administrations should be complimented on that as well.
Yeah, so we
because they
need
worked
to make
very
sure
hard
that we
on that.
continue to put the resources into that is
Yeah.
required.
No, it was, as I say, former administrations worked hard to get that, off and running. We were one of the first municipalities in Middlesex County, if not Southwestern Ontario, to have that. Yeah. Amy, you're okay? Okay. Martin, go ahead, please.
Mayor Allen, just a follow up to the CAO. So you're saying we need a new deputy clerk because of asset management?
No, I'm saying that we need a deputy clerk to focus in on the energies that we need in that department. You see the technology that comes in here. There's a lot of attributes that that position will bring to the organization. What I'm saying is there's also the ability to alleviate some of the other people in the organization with roles that fall under that purview and free them up for asset management, free them up for GIS. We talked about a fire chief changing one person's role already, not two. So you'll see efficiencies that come with it. And then on top of that, you're going to see service delivery. What I'm cautioning for council to consider is the fact that that $225,000 hit to or boost to the tax rate is actually not accurate, because there's an entire industrial portion of that tax component that isn't built in there. That is at a minimum. And then when you start to see that business come online, you're going to start to see the houses start to move in the community. You're going to start to see the development that happens there. And we're going to need the bodies here to support it. Right now, there are people doing tasks that I need a deputy clerk to alleviate from, because water billing alone is going to start to go into a little bit of a tilt, if you will. Financial analyst to come on board to assist Kristen with her situation. So there's people that have skills here that need to have those skills activated. This brings us up to be able to do so, not to mention all the legislative things that we need to get caught up on. We rewrote almost every job description in this organization in the past little while. So it's getting to the point where it is proper. And that's what I'm saying, is we have to get to a proper functioning body, which we have, which is good.
As mayor, I might say to council as well that I work very closely with our clerk, and Alan wears a lot of hats that he shouldn't have to wear at times, and I appreciate that. But I meet with Alan almost on a daily basis, and I appreciate that. Okay, our treasurer has reiterated a recommendation to us, and council have seen this, debated it. What's council's wish? Do you wish to put the recommendation that has been broadcast to council on the floor with a tax rate of 3.2, I believe you said. 3.27. Okay, Counselor Myers. Counselor Choi, thank you very much. And I'll have a last call for questions. Yes, Mark, please go ahead.
I think this is an important vote, so I'd ask for a recorded vote on it.
Your worship, would you like to proceed with the vote?
If you would, Mr. Bushel, please do so.
This is yes or no. Counselor Myers. Counselor Hagan. Counselor Vink.
No.
Deputy Mayor Mike Schultes.
Yes.
Counselor McCollum.
No.
Counselor McGill.
Yes.
Counselor Choi.
Yes.
Mayor Mayhew.
Yes.
Your worship, we have a supported resolution.
Okay, thank you. I conclude, Kristen, that budget presentations are now completed, and we can move on as the agenda dictates. Bylaw, confirming bylaw 2023-081, confirming bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the municipality of Southwest Middlesex of the special meeting. Is there a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Choi, and Jody, I think I saw your hand go up. Ed, okay, that's fine. Seconded by Councillor Myers. All in favor? Carried. We have future meetings before us, and I interpret that another budget meeting will not be necessary. So council can be advised of that by email, and the chair will adjourn this meeting at 11:12 a.m. And council, thank you very much for your participation in this process. It's important. And we look forward to seeing you at 1:30. Thank you. Is that right? I see some donuts back there that haven't been consumed yet, so I'll help.